Hello and welcome to another lesson from Education Hub. Today we're going to be talking about the IELTS essay and achieving a Band 7 in writing. Okay, let's get started. First of all, it is very important to understand the band descriptors. Now, the band descriptors, of course, the public version is available from the IELTS.org website. The band descriptors that the examiner has are a little bit more detailed, but essentially the main ideas are included in the public version. So let's have a talk about why it's important. It is very important to understand the band descriptors for the following reasons. Number one, you know what the examiner is looking for. A lot of students can write very good essays. I get a lot of students who are university graduates who are very used to writing 3,000, 4,000 word essays. However, to write a 250-word essay is quite alien to them. They're very used to using a lot of research material. They're very used to drawing on material that they've been taught in class. However, the essays that you write for IELTS are much more general, and of course you are not given any research material to draw from. All you're given is a question. So it's very important to know the band descriptors so you can understand what the task is. Number two, you know what areas you need to focus on. By understanding the 4 band descriptors, you can have a very clear understanding of how your essay is graded and the things that you need to include to get the band score that you're looking for. Number 3, you know what to check for when you have finished. I generally tell my students to leave between 5 and 1 minute to have a quick read through their essay, not just for grammatical mistakes, but to look for things that are included in the band descriptors, which we're going to talk about now. The first band descriptor. The first one for the essay is task response. Now, number 1 is most important. The idea with the band descriptors is the first one that is described here addresses all parts of the task, is the overarching statement, which means if you do not cover the first one, then the examiner will jump down to the next band. So we read the question. If you have not addressed all parts of the task, then you are starting at a band 6 for task response. So it's very important to understand the question and to address all parts of the task. Now, sometimes the question will be asking you to do more than one thing. You do not choose one part, you answer all parts. Second, presents a clear position throughout the response. Now, the best way to do this is to have a very clear thesis statement, and again, to understand the question very clearly. Task response is very much about understanding the question. By misunderstanding the question, you are putting yourself at a major disadvantage. Basically, if you miss out a major part of the question, you are starting at band 5 for task response. Finally, presents, extends, and supports main ideas, but there may be a tendency to overgeneralize and or supporting ideas may lack focus. Now, so there is some freedom here to make mistakes, to have some errors in terms of your ideas, because again, no one is an expert on all of the topics that you're asked to answer on, but by outlining, you're able to have focus. You're able to write down some supporting ideas beforehand and to think about whether you think they're going to work or not. So by understanding what the examiner is looking for in terms of task response, you have a much better chance of getting a high band score for the first band descriptor. The second one is coherence and cohesion. Now, basically what this means is how well your paragraphs and your argument holds together. So the first one, the overarching statement, is logically organizes information and ideas. There is clear progression throughout. Now again, I can't stress the importance enough of outlining. By outlining, you've got a much better chance of achieving this progression and this organization. Number 2, uses a range of cohesive devices appropriately, although there may be some over or underuse. Now, cohesive devices, the basic ones that we look at are things, if we're putting paragraphs in order or ideas in order, we use things like firstly, secondly, but there are lots of different cohesive devices you can use. Pronouns is a good one. Demonstrative adjectives is another one you can use. I will be doing a further lesson on coherence and cohesion at a later time. Number 3, presents a clear central topic within each paragraph. Now, by using a topic sentence, the most general statement in the paragraph, you have a much better chance of having a focused paragraph. The one thing that's very confusing in paragraphs is if you put irrelevant information or ambiguous information in a paragraph, because it's very easy to get confused if you do not have a central topic that is continued from the beginning of the paragraph to the end of the paragraph. The third band descriptor is Lexical Resource. Now again, uses a sufficient range of vocabulary to allow some flexibility and precision. Now at Band 7, you need to focus on thematic vocabulary, which means vocabulary that relates to the topic of the question you're being asked. Okay, the second one uses less common lexical items with some awareness of style and collocation. Now these are things you can learn beforehand. By looking at the themes, IELTS generally follows particular themes. You look at lexical items that are related to these particular themes. Number 3, may produce occasional errors in word choice, spelling, and or word formation. So again, there is some flexibility here for making errors. However, it's very important for you to be careful with things like spelling and word form, because words that are misspelled and words that are incorrectly formed really stand out in a very short essay. And especially if you're trying to use less common or low frequency vocabulary, if you get these words wrong, they may obscure the meaning that you're trying to put across. And finally, grammatical range and accuracy. Now what you need to try to do is use a variety of complex structures. Now a complex structure does not mean that every paragraph should have extremely long sentences. What this actually means is that there should be some variety of sentence structure. Now it means that all of your simple sentences should be 100% accurate. All of your compound sentences should be 100% accurate. And then when you're using complex structures, you should be getting the majority of them accurately as well. The second one, produces frequent error-free sentences. Now what I tell my students is you really should be aiming for more than 50% of your sentences containing no errors at all. And the last one, has good control of grammar and punctuation but may make a few errors. So a few means not many at all. So what we need to do is minimize the damage by having as few errors as possible. So let's have a look at an example of a Band 7 essay now, and we'll have a look at my analysis. Okay, so here's the question. Unemployment is one of the most serious problems facing developed nations today. What are the advantages and disadvantages of reducing the working week to 35 hours? So we can see by the wording in the question that it is an advantages and disadvantages type essay, a discursive essay. So basically, we're looking at an introduction that gives some background information. We're looking at a thesis that says that we are going to give advantages, disadvantages. We're looking at two body paragraphs, one that focuses on advantages and one that focuses on disadvantages. And then we're looking at a conclusion. And of course, when we're writing a discursive essay, it's very important to give our own personal opinion in the conclusion. Let's have a look at the introduction. It is unquestionable that rising unemployment is one of the most pressing issues in the industrial world. So there is our background information on the topic. One solution that has been put forward is to cut the working week to a maximum of 35 hours. And there we have a direct reference to the question. So not only is the introduction on topic, talking about unemployment, it's very focused and specific about the idea of a 35-hour week. And then we have our thesis. There are both benefits and drawbacks of implementing such a strategy. So as you can see from the thesis is not telling what side we are on yet. The thesis is merely saying that there are both positive and negative sides to this argument. So let's have a look at the first body paragraph. It is fairly easy to understand the reasons why this proposal has been made. Okay, so there's a very general statement for our topic sentence, which is going to introduce the advantages. The reasoning is that if workers are not allowed to work for more than 35 hours weekly, then employers will be forced to engage more staff. There would be at least two advantages to this. Not only would unemployment be reduced, but the working conditions of employees on very long shifts would also be significantly improved. An example of this would be a factory employing 300 manual laborers doing 10 hours a day might employ 450 workers. So there we have a very clearly structured paragraph with a very specific example at the end. Second body paragraph. There is also, however, a strong argument not to implement this proposal. So there we have a topic sentence which is extremely general, just as the first one was very general. And basically what this is doing is telling us what the paragraph is going to be about. So this one is talking about advantages, and the second one is talking about disadvantages. This idea is based on economic competitiveness. If a company was forced to employ more workers to produce the same amount of goods, then its wage bill would rise and its products might become more expensive and less competitive compared to companies with longer working weeks. In this case, it is possible that the company either might become insolvent or it might have to make some employees redundant. As a result, the intended benefit to the personnel would not happen. Okay, again we have a general introduction of the topic, and then we have a specific example at the end. Finally, we have the conclusion. In summary, we can see that this is clearly a complex issue, as there are significant advantages and disadvantages to the proposal. As you can see, the first sentence here of the conclusion is giving us a basic summary of the thesis and the focus of the essay, and then we finish with an opinion. My own personal view is that it would be better not to introduce the shortened working week because it works only in theory and not in practice. Okay, so this essay is a clear band 7, and now we'll analyze it in terms of the band descriptors. So let's have a look. This was a task I gave my students to do. The task was, now that you have corrected the grammatical errors, I filled the essay with grammatical errors, but they've since been fixed. This is a clear band 7 essay. Let's have a look at task response. So number 1, there is a clear understanding of the question. Not only is the question talking about unemployment, which is the key word here, but it is talking about reducing the working week to 35 hours. This is addressed very clearly in the introduction. There is a summary and paraphrase of the question in the introduction. The position is clear throughout. It is supported and extended in every paragraph, and there are relevant examples which are developed in each body paragraph. So for task response, it is a clear band 7. For coherence and cohesion, that should be. There is logical organization. As we can see, there is a very clear thesis statement which relates to the first body paragraph's topic sentence, the second body paragraph's topic sentence, and the first sentence of the conclusion. There is a range of cohesive devices, as you can see, connectives such as one solution, however, in the thesis. Then we have it is fairly, the reasoning is, not only, but. An example of this would be, this is also, however, this idea is, in this case, as a result, in summary, my own personal view. As you can see, these expressions here add coherence to the text by linking the sentences and ideas together. Lexical resource. Now this is very strong. The lexical resource here is in my opinion, closer to a band 8 than a band 7, because it is thematic and there is a wide variety of vocabulary accurately used. So here are some examples. Unquestionable that rising unemployment, the most pressing issues in the industrial world, implementing such a strategy, forced to engage more staff, employment would be reduced, employ workers, produce goods, wage bill, rise products, expensive, competitive companies, working weeks, insolvent employees, redundant personnel, economic competitiveness, theory and practice. These words are all words which are thematically linked to the topic of unemployment, and they are used accurately and flexibly. Finally, we have grammatical range and accuracy. There are a variety of complex sentences employed in this essay. Most of the sentences are error-free, and there are simple sentences in there, and there are different types of sentences, but they are generally correct. Also, the complex sentences, the variety of complex sentences are correct. So as you can see, this essay here is a very clear band 7 because it meets the demands of the band descriptors. Final words. Education Hub wishes you success for the future. For more lessons, go to educationhub.net.au. Thank you for listening to this video.